Hello, my name is Jasmine Chavez. I'm from the University of Houston downtown, and my project is Invasive Species in the United States. What is an invasive species? An invasive species is a foreign organism that spreads rapidly and establishes over large areas. Species that become invasive succeed due to favorable environmental conditions and lack of natural predators, competitors, and diseases that normally regulate their population. Invasive species are everywhere. They damage our crops, our industries, the environment, and public health. Scientists, academics, leaders of industry, and land managers are realizing that invasive species are one of the most serious environmental threats of the 21st century. How do invasive species spread? Invasive species are primarily spread by human activities, often unintentionally. Ships can carry aquatic organisms in their ballast water or under the ship. Insects can get into wood, shipping pallets, and crates that are shipped around the world. Some ornamental plants can escape into the wild and become invasive. Some invasive species are intentionally or accidentally released as pets. For example, Burmese pythons are becoming a big problem in the Everglades. Where are invasive species effective? Invasive species, unfortunately, are not subject to a certain ecosystem. They can dominate about any ecosystem as long as the right conditions are in place. An example is the aquatic ecosystem. Invasive species can eventually change food webs, decrease biodiversity, and alter an ecosystem's living conditions such as soil's pH level. However, invasive species' main target are native species. How do invasive species threaten the United States wildlife? Invasive species are a significant threat to almost half of the native U.S. species currently listed as federally endangered. Invasive species also increase the soil erosion and can cause major damage to streams and other wetland areas that provide habitat for native fish, plants, and animals. Invasive species represent the second leading cause of species extinction and loss of biodiversity in aquatic environments worldwide. Examples of invasives in the United States. Asian carp were brought to the U.S. in the 1970s to remove algae from ponds. These fish can grow up to 100 pounds and will eat just about anything, adapting shockingly well to new environments. If the fish reached the Great Lakes, it could ultimately eliminate biodiversity in the already fragile ecosystem. Another popular example is the zebra mussels. Zebra mussels originally smuggled their way into the U.S. in the 1980s. Zebra mussels clog the inside of pipes, costing millions of dollars. They also threaten the Great Lakes by making the water clearer. With clear water, more sunlight reaches the bottom of the lakes, where organisms thrive on darkness and can live in the light. Starlings were brought to the U.S. from Europe in the late 1800s. Starlings occupy most of North America, stealing nesting sites from other birds and rob the agriculture industry of $800 million annually by damaging fields. To make matters worse, starlings spread disease that affect both humans and livestock. Kudzu was brought to the United States in 1876 from Japan to feed livestock and prevent soil erosion. Kudzu's downside is that it destroys other forest species by choking out needed sunlight because they grow extremely fast, up to a foot a day. The cane toad is a native of Central and South America and was introduced to Florida in the 1950s as a means to control white grubs and cane fields. The toad secretes a toxin when handled which will burn and irritate the skin. It poses a great threat to household pets. Texas invasive. The red lionfish has the potential to devastate local reef communities due to their aggressiveness, wide selection of potential prey items, as well as their ability to spawn throughout the year in the right climate. Red lionfish are superior competitors of the Bahamian coral reef systems and are slowly making their way to Florida and up into the Gulf Coast. The brown widow spider originated in South Africa and was transferred to the U.S. through Florida. This species is timid and avoids human interaction. Males and immature brown widow spiders do not bite at all. This species will fall to the ground in a ball as if it were dead as a defense mechanism, but should not be handled. Brown widow spiders bite out of defense, and it will only occur by mature females. More examples include the giant reed, silk tree, and the water hyacinth. Giant reed was introduced from Western Asia, Northern Africa, and Southern Europe in the early 1800s. Giant reed chokes riversides and streams channels, crowds out native plants, interferes with flood control, increases fire potential, and reduces habitat for wildlife, including the leaf-billed vireo, a federally endangered bird. It ignites easily and can create intense fires. The silk tree can grow in a variety of soils, produce large seed crops, and resprout when damaged. It is a strong competitor to native trees and shrubs in open areas or forest edges. Dense stands of mimosa severely reduce the sunlight and nutrients available for other plants. Silk tree was introduced to the U.S. in 1745. Silk tree continues to be a popular ornamental because of its fragrant and showy flowers. Water hyacinth is thought to be the native to the Amazon River basin of South America. It was introduced to the United States in 1884. It alters native vegetation and fish communities by lowering light penetration and dissolved oxygen levels. Impedes boats traffic on rivers and waterways and clogs irrigation channels and insect pumps. Economical impact. The UN Convention on Biological Diversity says the spread of invasive costs $1.4 trillion a year globally in damages and control measures. The U.S. alone loses $138 billion a year in the fight. Non-native wood-boring insects cost approximately $830 million in lost residential property values every year. The Great Lakes alone has an annual cost of $200 million a year because invasions limit the ability of the natural ecosystem to support fisheries, raw water uses, and wildlife watching. What is being done? The Nature Conservancy is working to prevent and control the spread of invasive species in all 50 states and across more than 30 countries around the world. The Forest Service by the USDA currently has programs for control and management of invasive species in terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. What can you do? Plant native plants and remove any invasive plants in your garden. There are many good native plant alternatives to common exotic ornamental plants. Become informed about invasive species in your area. Report any sightings to your county extension agent. Regularly clean your boots, gear, bow, tires, and any other equipment you use outdoors to remove insects and plant parts that may spread invasive species to new places, especially when going out of state and out of the country. Thank you for watching.